Hey, what's up guys? So now we have been able to create a contact. We can come here and create a new contact and we get it listed here. So now I want us to go ahead and create the details for these contacts. So it's going to need to look like this. So if you're able to look at my screenshot here, this is what we need to have. We need to have the toolbar with the left back. Then these two icons, one will be representing if it is favorited or not. Another one will be an option to delete the contact. Also, we will have these other options. So basically we'll be trying to model out this layout here. So let's go ahead and start creating this layout. But before we get there, of course, we need to know which contact we need to show on that detail layout. Now, if you look at our API, we have this endpoint that gives us the detail. So we give an ID and it gives us the detail. But maybe to show you how it literally should work, let me just log in here. Then I can use this to come here. Authorize. We have to put bearer, then the token. If we came to get the list of contacts, let's say we want all of them, we get each object here. So it contains this information. So if we wanted to pick the detail for one of them, so let's go to get one. Let's put the ID, then get. So you see, we get the same information that we already have in the list. So over here, you notice that we have the same information. So that means that we literally don't need to call this endpoint here. And that's because when you're working with mobile apps, you want to optimize requests as much as possible. So if it's a request you don't really need to make, you don't need to make it. And that's why we use things like Redux, so that you can update something on the app locally and maybe save it on the server, but you don't have to call the server again to see the updated information. So anytime you don't have a requirement for something to be real time or sync to different devices, or if it's not like a financial transaction that you want to make sure the server has it, it's a good idea to not go to the server to fetch it again. So now we are going to be, when we click on one, we are going to be navigating, and in the parameters we are going to be taking the item we click on. So we're going to go to our list. So let's go to our list. So we are going to go to our contacts. So we are going to go to our contacts list. So that's here. Then we'll go to render item. So render item, return detachable opacity. So we're going to have an on press here. So this on press will basically navigate to the other screen. So here we can have a function. Then in here we can navigate. So we navigate to the detail. So that should be contact detail. I believe that's how we called it. Make sure we are importing it. Yeah, that's it. Then we can send the contact in the parameters, in the params. So the contact here will be the current item, which in this case is item. Okay. So now we can pass item here and save. So when we come here and click, you notice that we come here in the item. So when we get here, we need to pick that item details and display them in the UI, which will look quite like this. So let's go there and see how to pick those parameters. So we're going to go to screens, then screen detail. Now for us to pick what's in the parameters here, we're going to be using a hook called useRoute. So useRoute returns for us the params amongst other things, but we are only interested in the params. So these are always undefined if we have 0 params sent. But if we console log now, let me bring up this console. You notice that in the params we have the item. So now we can pick the item. So if it's not there, we want to set it to an empty object. If there are no params, we can set them to an empty object so that we don't get some crashes here. Let me see. So now here, let's console log the item instead. Save it. Now when we come here, let's go there. You see that the item is basically the contact. So now let's start working on our design for the UI. So we're going to need to show the image if the user has an image. So we're going to come here. Now, since this is the screen, we will be returning some component. So let's say contact details component. Then let's go ahead and pass the item. So we can say contact equals item. We don't send the params, so I can just remove them. And everything else will be getting them, everything else we'll need, we'll be sending them later. So now we can go to components and create this one. So the easiest way to do it, I can just duplicate this, then I can rename it to details component. So in it we can come and refactor the things that must change. So let's rename there. Then we're expecting to get the item, so we can just the contact, so you can just say contact here. Yeah, so here we can of course destructure, but now we are going to be destructuring from contact. Then let's remove this and also clean up everything else. So let's return the container. Then of course we don't need this stuff. Let's remove this icon. Make sure the container is imported, so we can import it from container like that. Then here let's just show the first name to make sure it's working. Then let's have first name like that. So let's import our details component here. So you can come in and import it and save. Now if we come again and click on one, you see we get the names. Okay, so let's go ahead and style this better. First off, I want it to be white everywhere. Now guys, I'm going to be changing this to use our regular scroll view here. Then let's make sure we are importing it. Come here, import scroll view. Then in here we can have a view. Then this view will contain this stuff like everything else. Then we want it spread over, so we can do styles.container. So let's go there and make sure our container is good. Now there's a lot here already, so I'm just gonna clean it up. Then make sure our container is flex1. Let's give it a background of white. Colors.white and save. Right now it's not updating. We need to save here. When we save, you see that it comes down here. Now, in fact, now what we can do is we can put the background on the scroll view, because that's the one we want to take over the whole screen. So here we can just have a simple style for the scroll view. You can even call it scroll view. Then let's style it in here. You can have scroll view. Then let it have the background. Okay, so move this one here, save. Let's come over here, save it. And now you see that it takes off the whole screen. So right here, first we want to show the image if we have the image. Now, sometimes we may not have the image, but if we do, then we can show it. So here we're gonna check if we have the contact picture. So you remember initially the contact picture will be null. So when we have it, we're gonna be showing an image. So I'm gonna have a component actually called image. Then let me just call it image component. Then let's create it. So I'm gonna go here and create a new file called image component.js. Then it can just be a simple functional component. Then of course this is fine. So of course this should be view. Okay. Then it's gonna be getting the source. Okay. So here we can now say source that we want you to show will be the contact picture. So contact picture. Okay. So now when we have this, we can go to our image and make sure we are actually showing it. So here in the image, we can return an image component. So the image from React Native, like this. Then let's have some source. Then the source will be, we need to have URI in there. Then now it will be equal to our source, the one we're passing from the parent component. Then we need to specify some styles. So here we can have style equals styles.detail photo. Like this. So for the details photo, let's go here and define the style for it. Alright. So let's give it some height, let's say of 300. Let's give it the width of 100% so it spreads over, it spreads everywhere. Then let's give it a resize mode of cover so that it's always taking off the whole width. So resize mode is to cover. Save it. Now we don't have an image here, and that's why you're seeing this. But if we click on like this one, oh, we need to make sure in the image, check the render of contact. So here we need to check something when we have an image. So let's see. If you have contact picture, render the image. Let's check how we are importing it. Oh, we need to import this one properly. Not from React Native, but we need to import our own. So import image from image component. Save it. So now, if we click on one, let's say we click on this, is that it shows now across. So it goes from here to here, which is what we want. So there's something here that you notice for the image. If we, let's say, reload or we click on a new one, you see it's not there by default, then it comes. So it would be a good idea to show the user that that image is loading, or it is maybe, if it fails to load, we show maybe that there was an error. Now we can do that by tapping into some methods that the image component gives us. So some of those methods can be on load start. So you can have like on load start. So this is called every time the image starts to load. So let me also create some handler for it. Then there is on load end and on error. So now we can handle on load end. This one, we also create a handler. Then there is also on error. So we can have on error. We also have a handler. Then there is, I guess that's it. So these are the ones we are going to be working with to show the user that the image is loading. Now here we can have const is loading. Then we can have set is loading. Set is loading. Let's start it false by default. So instead, it's gonna be false by default. Make sure we are importing use state. So when we start to load, on load start, then we can set is loading to true. So we can say const on load start equals some function, then it's gonna do set loading to true. Now let's use the exact function. So now when we are loading, so here you can say if we are loading, so we can come in and check. So right now I'm going to have some view that will be wrapping everything. So if we are loading, then we want to show an activity indicator or a text that says loading image. So right now I'm going to use a text just for us to visualize it better. Not sure if it's better, but we will be able to know what's going on. So loading image, let's import text. Okay, save. Then we need to move everything here into this component. So let's bring them here. Now let's also have on load end and on error. So we just duplicate this function. This will be on load end. So when it finishes loading, we'll set loading to false. Then let's handle on error. So to handle on error, we will have on error like this. Then of course we set it to false. We can have another state to make sure if there is an error, we show the error, that there was an error reading an image, or we show a placeholder. So we can do something like this. So we can do has error. Then we can have set has error to false. Then if it fails to load here, we can also set has error to true. Save it. So now let's also work with this is loading properly. So now if we save, and got the detail, so that it says loading image and then it loads. So that we click here, loading image, and then it loads. So now that you can see that when we are loading, we show the loading. Let's go ahead and style that loading better so it goes somewhere like in the center. So for us to be able to style that, we are going to need to have to style the container. So this one, let's have like image container, let's call it image container. So now we can go in our styles and also have image container. All right, since our height is 300 and our height is 100%, let's go ahead and maintain those, because if we don't have like the width, then it's not going to know what percentage it's gonna be. So if we save this, let's come over here and save. Then now we can try to center stuff. So let me come here and go to the details. See, it's still here. Okay, so now for us to style the text, we can come to the text here and give it some styles. So style equals, let's have styles.loading. Then in the text here, then we can have loading. Let's also style it. So now we can say we want it to be, let's give it some padding on the left and the right and the top. So on the left, let's give it like 30%. Save. So now if we come, it's not even working. We need to save here. So now click on one, sits in the middle. So let's make it 35 here, and also have some padding top. So padding top, let's make it like 5. This should be top. Save. So when you come back, let's go to the one that has the image. You see that now it's in quite the center. All right, so now that we have that, let's go to another section. So let's go ahead and put where we need to show the name, that is after the image. So we can go detail. So after the image, then here we can show the name. So to show the name, we can use text, of course. Then we're going to need to show the first name and last name. So we can now just say first name. Then we can even put this, then put the last name. All right, so now that we have this, we need to style it. So for the first name, last name, so style can be styles.names. Then in styles, let's go ahead and create it. So let's give it some font size that's bigger. So font size, let's do like 23 and save. Now if we come there, see it's not updating. Let's make sure the style is being added. Let's save. And now you see that now this is quite big. So for us we need to give it some padding, of course. But if we look at the original, let me actually move this one away. All the content here is going to have some padding on the right and left and top. So we're going to wrap everything in there in a view. So here we can have another view that will add some padding to. So view. Then let's go ahead and put this text in the view. So for this view, we can add a padding. So for this, we can have styles.content. So now, here in the styles, we can have the styles for this. Let's just have some padding to something like 20 and save. So now we have this. So the next thing we're going to need to do is set up these 3 rows, the call, the text, and the video. So how do we set those ones up?